ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Monday, July 21st. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. We're going to open up our text line this hour for the entire show. 304-396-TALK. That's 304-396-8255. You can also hit me up on X this hour at Paul Swann. We got a lot to get into today. We had yesterday the matchup that everybody hopes for come this time of year on the TBT. It was Best Virginia getting the better of Heard That 82-75. Now Heard That minus a couple of players, John Elmore, Tavion Kinsey. Why? Because they were involved in the NBA Summer League championship game, and unfortunately for John and Tavion, Charlotte fended off that late push from Sacramento, and the Kings lost 83-78. So the Charlotte Hornets get its first NBA Summer League championship. At the same time, Heard That falls to Best Virginia. And how many of you maybe have lost interest? You've heard me ask that a couple of days. And I'm not trying to push a narrative here, but I'm just genuinely curious. How many of you have possibly lost interest in Heard That or the TBT in general? And that doesn't mean that this loss has kind of maybe got you down. Again, it's summer basketball. It's fun. We enjoy it. It's good to see these alumni teams, even though some of the players on the alumni teams aren't alumni. So it's not as if a solid roster of West Virginia players beat a solid roster of Marshall players. But it is fun to see Heard That go out there in name, represent the Thundering Herd, the Marshall fan base. But this loss, I don't even feel like it's a loss because Marshall was, well, so there you see, there you go. Heard That, which represents Marshall alumni, playing with a couple of men down yesterday after the loss. Ott Elmore broke it down as to what happened with the team.
They fought, they pushed it. We made it close. They didn't give up. We were playing a couple men down. Those guys play in the Summer League Championship tonight, so we're going to wish them the best. But I'm proud of the guys we had. They battled and fought. We were playing three centers at one point, and, we did the best we could.
And the Thundering Herd had an opportunity in that game. But it's not that bad of a loss. Again, 82-75. That game was winnable, and if Marshall/Heard That would have had Tavion Kinsey, John Elmore on the roster, things could have been maybe a little different in the way the game played out. Now, the big question here is, are you coming back next year? That was asked of Ott, actually, and there's a feeling, or at least the vibe I'm getting is, and I'm reading some of the online postings as well, that this might not be in the cards for Ott Elmore. I don't think he's coming back next year.
We'll see. Each year it's getting harder and harder to do. It's getting more expensive, entry fee, getting guys here. Probably weren't going to do it this year until they put in Charleston. So that might have been the end of this iteration. I heard that. Maybe, the young guys who graduated in the last couple of years take it over, but that was probably our last one.
So our last one, that could be John Elmore, that could be Ott Elmore. We didn't get a DeAndre Kane sighting at any point during the TBT. Tavion Kinsey's pursuing his dreams of playing in the NBA. John Elmore, of course, playing in the G League and getting the invite to the NBA Summer League. That was his first invite. You don't turn that down. The TBT's for fun. The TBT, sure, you're playing for a lot of money, but you're also investing a lot of money. And I know just watching some of the postings on social media, there's a lot of fundraising going on as well. Trying to find ways to generate revenue, be able to bring players in, travel, room, board, all of that. You got to actually have some money to go out and try to play for some money. But there was an interesting thought there. Maybe some of the younger guys will be interested in maybe doing this next year, representing the Marshall fan base in whatever version of the Heard That team is fielded next year. and Ott talked a little bit about that. There is that connection there with current Marshall and maybe future Marshall players. You could see a continuation of this.
Yeah, and Ryan's on staff down there, so he's around all those guys, and he's connected with them. So I'm sure the young guys would want to play. You know, a lot of them reached out to play this time, but, you know, you only have so many spots. So, yeah, maybe they take it over and keep a good thing going.
So there's a possibility. It might not be heard that you recognize from years ago. And Marshall's had some really successful players come out. And if you could possibly get a guy like Tavion maybe to play next year, you could possibly get an Obina and a Chili Killen. If you could get a few guys to come in and play on this team, is it worth it to them? What are they giving up to make the trip? You have guys that are overseas playing, former Marshall Thundering Herd players. Of course, that was the whole idea. You want to get enough Marshall players so this would actually count as an alumni team. So there's a potential there. Or would you like to see this just go away? It was fun while it lasted. Thanks for the memories. We're focusing on now to Marshall basketball. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. So your thoughts on that. And, of course, there's a lot happening today we got to get into. The Sun Belt Conference football preseason coaches poll is out, so we're going to talk about that. Where did the Thundering Herd end up? And again, this is predicted order of finish. Also, where did Southern Miss finish? And we've got a couple of comments on that already. And again, this isn't where they finished per se. This is where they're predicted to finish. But the vote, this is where both these teams land when we talk about it. Also, only 2 players for the Thundering Herd recognized as all Sun Belt first and second team. So we'll get into that. And we'll get your text in 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. And we've also got to talk about this. Memphis offered the Big 12 up to $200 million, which included corporate support and league revenue givebacks to join the conference. And what did the Big 12 say? You'll find out when we continue in our text line, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I'm on X at Paul Swann. We'll get all of that going when we continue on this Monday edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Hurt at work? Tom Boggs is here for you in Huntington, and he's brought the expertise of Warner Law Offices with him.
Call 345-6789.
Save big on everything for your next project when you shop at Menards. Dutch Boy's Durafighter interior paint is a paint and primer in one with a tough, lasting formula. It provides great scrub resistance and durability with remarkable hide and a smooth finish. Save big on Dutch Boy's Durafighter paint and start your next project today. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for more great deals happening this week.
Save big money at Menards.
Hi, I'm Nori, and over the years, my mother and I have opened our homes to those who need it most, and it's been so rewarding. I bet you didn't know that some adults who have unfortunately been mistreated need a place to call home in West Virginia. It happens more than you know. They may have some physical or mental limitations, and they need your help. Everyone deserves a place to call their own. I can tell you from my experience, it's worth it.
If you have an open heart and want to open your home, Adult Family Care may be the right fit for you. Call the Department of Human Services and ask to speak to an Adult Family Care Home Finder at 304-269-6820. Sponsored by the West Virginia Department of Human Services, the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, and this station. This project is supported by the Administration for Community Living, ACL, of the United States, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, as part of a financial assistance award totaling $1,227,345, with 100% funded by ACL HHS. The contents are those of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of nor an endorsement by ACL HHS or the U.S. government.
Think summer. Think sunshine, lake days, beach trips, and all that sand, salt, and grime clinging to your car. That stuff doesn't just look bad. It can dull your paint, cause scratches, and even lead to rust. Protect your ride and keep it shining all summer long with a trip to Thoroughbred Express Auto Wash. Fast, easy, and built for real clean. Find a location near you by getting started at thoroughbredexpress.com. Join the winner's circle with Thoroughbred Express Wash, where your summer starts sparkling.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos. Fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/play. That's ethos.com/play.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We continue on with this Monday edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line is open and brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Also on X at Paul Swann. So the Sun Belt Conference football preseason coaches poll is out today. And where did the Thundering Herd end up? Well, number one team in the East Division, James Madison, with 94 points. So James Madison predicted to win the East Division, followed by Georgia Southern, and then App State, and then Coastal Carolina, and then Old Dominion, and then at 6th, Marshall, and then at 7th, Georgia State. So Marshall picked 6th. How do you feel about that? You think that was fair? Marshall got 42 points, but one first-place vote. How about that? So someone voted Marshall to win the East Division. Now, on the West Division side, it was a little more competitive. Louisiana won the divisional vote, 86 points, but also received 6 first-place votes. And then Texas State came in second, but also got 6 first-place votes and had 78 points. And then third, with 1 first-place vote and 64 points, it's Arkansas State. South Alabama also received a first-place vote, was 4th with 50 points. And then there's Southern Miss at 5th with 47 points. Then Troy at 6th with 43 points. And then ULM dead last in the West Division with 24 points. So to recap, Marshall, 42 points, but a first-place vote. And then Southern Miss, 47 points, 5th place in the West Division. So both these teams are not predicted to see each other in the championship game. Do you think that the coaches got it right? How can they get it right? That's the big question here. How do they get it right with so much transferring, so much turnover? And then the preseason offensive player of the year, you might know him. His name is Braylon Braxton, Southern Miss quarterback. He was the newcomer of the year and an all Sun Belt second team honoree, ranking second in the Sun Belt in passing efficiency, leading Marshall to its first Sun Belt title a year ago, the description reads. Threw for 1,624 yards and 19 touchdowns. Ran for 610 yards and 4 scores for the Thundering Herd before, as the award said, or at least the release said, following head coach Charles Huff to Hattiesburg. So quarterback of the year, preseason, offensive, preseason player of the year there, Braylon Braxton. And we got comments about that. Texter said, actually it was from XX Poster said, University of Southern Marshall not getting much respect in the West. Hope they finish even worse. I don't know if Southern Miss can finish worse than ULM. Troy might be all right. That West Division is going to be tough. Louisiana is going to be tough. Texas State always seems to get a lot of attention. Arkansas State, South Alabama, it might be a little competitive over there, but I think that's Louisiana's division. And then in the East Division, imagine this. James Madison, the odds-on favorite, but you got to have a lot of respect for what Georgia Southern does. App State's always going to be in the mix. Coastal Carolina. Old Dominion picked higher than Marshall. When's the last time that has happened? I don't remember. It might have happened, but I don't remember it in recent memory. The last time that Old Dominion was picked higher than Marshall. Not during the Sun Belt era, however, as short as it may be. But with the turnover and the fact that Marshall's basically had to rebuild a team while Southern Miss imported its team from Huntington, the fact that Southern Miss is 5th and Marshall is 6th in the West and East divisions respectively is pretty interesting. But at least Marshall did get that first place vote. Now, there were only a couple of selections with the preseason all Sun Belt teams. First team offense, tight end Toby Payne. So he gets first team honors. Second team offense preseason, Jalen Slappy. So he's a second teamer. Toby Payne is a first teamer. And then that's it. No other Marshall representation on the preseason first or second team. And I'm not surprised by that, partially because look at where Marshall finished in the East Division voting, 42 points, 6th place. So the coaches, not that high on Marshall to begin with. You don't know a lot of the players, a lot of turnover, a lot of rebuilding. There's a lot of uncertainty right now with the Thundering Herd from the coaches. They just don't know much about Marshall. How can you? We don't know that much about Marshall, and we're here every day. And of course, it's a work in progress right now. Absolutely going to be a work in progress. You're starting from scratch once again. You're not building on the legacy of Marshall football, winning the Sun Belt Conference Championship. You're almost starting right back at zero because you have a new coach, new staff, new players, and a lot of that's because of the transfer portal. A lot of that's because those players left and followed Coach Huff. Not all of them, but a lot of players left because Coach Huff was leaving. And so you start over again. And that's what I've become more disillusioned about as we go on, with the fact that these teams, you can build teams quickly in the transfer portal, but you also can lose teams quickly in the transfer portal. And there isn't any reason or rhyme to way this system has gotten out of hand right now. You need to be loud in your dissatisfaction of the transfer portal to the point where eventually this might change. I don't know if we have a voice in this matter, but it's got to change because you can't build a team this way. Or you can build it brand new every single year and go and get the very best. And, of course, now on top of this, you're going to be revenue sharing. And that was part of the pitch that the Memphis Tigers made to the Big 12. And Memphis offering up $200 million. $200 million to the Big 12. And also pointed out, according to reports, that it intends to fully pay to the max limit its student athletes, mostly in football. Marshall can't do that. Most of these teams right now can't do that. But what's the status of Memphis right now? And that was the big discussion a few days ago. Marshall probably pushing back on Louisiana Tech with a couple of other teams because there was that outside shot that just maybe the American would get picked over, and that would leave the American weekend, and then right there is ECU. You can swoop in and get them and maybe cherry pick another team, and there you go. Sun Belt saved, but that's depending upon what happens in the American and what is going to happen in the American. We'll talk about it when we continue. With our text line, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Where do you think Marshall should be in these preseason polls that come out every year? Do you think Marshall is properly ranked at 6th? And does these things really matter? Do these things carry over? If you're a player right now at Marshall, do you look at this and go, oh, okay, they don't know much about me. They don't respect me. All right. Is this bulletin board material? Do you put this thing up? Do you point out on the board where Marshall is picked by the coaches? Do you look at the all first and second team conference selections and only 2 Marshall players and you go, all right, you highlight that stuff, you put it out there, or do you just focus on your business, what you can control? Or is it a mix? I'm curious if this is bulletin board material or this is just noise, as Coach Huff would famously say, quoting from another coach he heard this from, rat poison. So is this rat poison right now for the Thundering Herd? Is this something more or less fans talk about amongst each other? Well, James Madison's better than Marshall this year because the coaches think so. Is that the kind of material that we're looking at right now as we've got a month and a half ago before football? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Buddy's All-American Barbecue is now in Milton. Enjoy all your favorite Buddy's classics like pulled pork, brisket, ribs, and more on East Main Street in Milton. Buddy's All-American Barbecue, the home of great barbecue, ice-cold beer, and killer wings in Huntington and now in Milton.
The soundtrack to your summer is back. Mount West 9th Street Live, downtown Huntington's favorite Friday night tradition. Presented by Michelob Ultra and White Claw. This Friday, July 25th, it's the Great Outdoors Marine and Tackle Night, featuring Souls of the Wounded on the Marshall OBGYN stage. Also, a special night supporting the restoration of the historic Keith Albee Performing Arts Center. Purchase a ticket to tour this iconic venue, see restoration progress, and enjoy a beverage while experiencing the magic of this legendary theater. Details at keithalbee.com/events. The Little Caesars Kids Zone is back, and Go Mart Happy Hour starts at 5. Enjoy food and drinks from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe, Sip Downtown Brasserie, and Summit Beer Station. Mark your calendar for the Thundering Herd Rally August the 15th. 9th Street Live, driven by University Ford and built by Cardinal Roofing. Every Friday through Labor Day on 9th Street between 3rd and 4th Avenues. Brought to you by Delta Hotels, Wendy's, Mountain Mindful, the City of Huntington, Marshall University, Blinko Glass Company, Marshall Health Network Arena, and Kindred Communications. Don't miss the fun.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
More fiber and laxatives, eh? Who are you? I'm future you. Future me? Constipation with belly pain still coming back? Our doctor figured it out. It's irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C. And Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talk Line, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We continue on with today's edition of The Drive. Our text line brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. You can also find me on X at Paul Swann. I'll be reading your replies there. Thundering Herd picked 6th in the East Division, while Marshall's new arch nemesis Southern Miss picked 5th in the West Division. Former Marshall quarterback Braylon Braxton named the preseason Offensive Player of the Year, while Toby Payne and Jalen Slappy make the preseason All-Sun Belt first and second team on offense, respectively. So that's where it stands as far as the evaluation from the coaches of what Marshall looks like, where Marshall is predicted to finish. As a poster on X said, Southern Miss wasn't getting much respect as well. We'll see. I think it's still too early. These things don't mean that much in the grand scheme of things. James Madison might have a really good team, but who knows? App State might be the best team in the league. Georgia State at 7 could be the best team in the league. A lot of this is just generating conversation fodder for the league, and obviously, if you're Marshall, you're the defending East Division champion and, of course, overall champion of the Sun Belt. Problem is, you get a brand new team. So how much of this is really bulletin board material in that regard, and how much of this is we got something to prove? And we'll put that up on the bulletin board just to remind us. So you can chime in as well, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. As we alluded to earlier, one of the things that a lot of you discussed when we were talking about conference realignment was, could there be a possibility of bringing in a team like ECU from the American? Now that Texas State has gone to the Pac-12 and the league has decided to bring in Louisiana Tech from Conference USA. Now, some of you favor the move, not many, very rare, but you can find someone now and then that says, okay, there's some value here. And I'm not talking about, of course, those from Louisiana Tech. I'm just talking about outside the league. Not too many people favor this. And again, it's all anecdotal, but you get where I'm saying. You get where I'm going here. This is not a highly regarded move by many. That's fair to say. So the big thing was, why don't you wait until we find out what happens to Memphis and other teams in the American, and then you could go after, in a strengthened position, teams that would make sense, like an ECU, from the American, try to bring them into the Sun Belt. Well, that might not be happening. Maybe it will, but not today, because reports came out today that Memphis offered the Big 12 up to $200 million. And that included corporate sponsorship and league revenue givebacks. And the league pretty much said, thank you, but we're not interested at this time. We'll call you. Don't call us. We'll call you. And so you got to have 12 of the 16 presidents and chancellors sign off on this. You didn't get that. So right now, this makes Memphis look, I don't want to say desperate, but there's urgency on Memphis's part to get itself into a Power 4 league, to get that status. Also, the Big 12 seems good. You've gone through this process already of evaluating institutions, and Memphis was found wanting. Memphis didn't get the invite. So does $200 million to the league bring enough value to warrant Memphis being invited? And the options were, take the money, add Memphis. You might have to add another school, But you're looking at turning away $200 million. Not in one lump sum, but I'm sure it would have been cumulative. And the league was not interested right now. The league said, thanks, but no thanks. So now, do you see Memphis pushing for another league? You think the Big Ten's going to entertain this conversation? Memphis and the Big Ten? Probably not, because the play is for power status, Power 4 status. The ACC, does Memphis make a play for the ACC? The SEC is probably not going to even look at this thing. Memphis and the SEC, does that even make sense? Memphis and the ACC? Memphis and the Big Ten? Because the Big 12 turned this down. And so does the Pac-12 even warrant a conversation if you're Memphis right now? And think about this. It's not that Memphis comes off as desperate to get into a new league. It's the fact that Memphis feels that the way this is shaping up, that the only thing that it can do is to buy its way into a power league, or it's going to get left behind, because there's going to be a gap soon. It's already forming. The gap is going to get larger. You're going to have 4 super conferences, and there might be some additions. But at the very least, Memphis seeing itself left behind, feeling that let's make this push. $200 million to get into the Big 12, and then being told thanks, but no thanks. That's a lot of money to turn down. And even Memphis not taking revenue from the league just to get into the Big 12 and to get into a situation where it's in a power league. Is that where we're at right now? You got to find a way to get in. And what's the price? That's the other question, is if $200 million wasn't enough, what's the price going to be? If you want to come into the league, you're going to try to buy yourself into the league now. $200 million. $200 million, not enough. What would Marshall have to do to get into the American? You think Marshall would have to buy its way in the American if you want to get out of Sun Belt? Would that day ever come where you look at the Sun Belt and you go, okay, we got to get into the American now. We have to get into the American. And so what would that financial push be? And could a program like Marshall even entertain making a financial push into a league like the American? Or could you see this be the new dynamic? Okay, if we don't get invited, we're going to have to buy our way in. How do we buy our way in? And what will it take? Because eventually they're going to be the haves, which there already are, and the have-nots, and that's it. There's not going to be any more, we need to pull another team. Teams are going to settle into the numbers, and you're going to have 4 super leagues. And eventually, those 4 super leagues are going to go, we're doing this without the rest of you. We don't need you. We don't need you. We can function without you. And we've got 4 super leagues with all the television revenue, and we control college athletics. We don't need you. You're going to be left behind. And what's that going to mean for every other college program out there? Are we going to see the return of and it might be named something different. We're going to see the return of a Division I and a 1AA, but it's not going to be FCS because, again, you've got so many Division I programs that left FCS, but now you have these super leagues. So could we see sort of a division between the programs that are in the super leagues and the programs that are not in the super leagues, but all still be under a Division I umbrella? Who knows? Or do the super leagues eventually go, we're out of here. We're leaving. We're going to set the rules the way we want to. It's a possibility. I mean, ultimately, I think what's just going to happen is those autonomy leagues are going to just play by rules set by themselves, and everyone else is just not going to be able to keep up. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Final segment coming up. Plenty of time for your text on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
The holiday may be over, but the stars, stripes, and deals at Cardinal Chevy keep on going. Hot new Silverados, 0% financing or save up to $13,000. New Equinox, $4,700 off. New Traverse, over $4,500 off. Plus up to 125% of KBB value for your trades. New ownership, improved processes, better deals. We're taking the market by storm. Visit our gorgeous facility right off I-64 and Hurricane or at CardinalChevy.com. Together, let's drive. See dealer for complete details.
Giovanni's has great Italian dishes. Spaghetti with meat sauce, lasagna, ravioli, manicotti, and baked lasagna. Giovanni's has the best sandwiches around, from the stromboli, Italian sub, calzones, and their signature Big Red. All dinners will be served with hot garlic bread or Italian rolls. Giovanni's Pizza, fresh, hot, and tasty. Have it delivered right to your door. Giovanni's, the Italian place to be.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
What's up?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think you would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
It's our final segment, but plenty of time for you. Our text line is open, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. You can also find me on X at Paul Swann. We've been talking a little bit about the TBT earlier. Could this be the last year for Heard That? Ott Elmore kind of alluding to maybe it's time for some of the younger generation to take over. Of course, Heard That losing to Best Virginia 82-75. John Elmore, Tavion Kinsey not available for Heard That. Both those two were in the NBA Summer League, and Sacramento was in the championship game against Charlotte. So could this be the end of Heard That, or at least the end of John Elmore, Ott Elmore, and a few other former Marshall players representing Marshall in the TBT? Texter says, Paul, the TBT has absolutely got to stay. My grandson and I look forward to it every year. We are huge Kentucky fans, and we didn't have a team in it until last year. We love seeing our former players. I wish Marshall and West Virginia weren't in the same bracket because it only gives one team to only win one game. If they could meet up later, it would be exciting. I love them playing each other, but it just doesn't seem fair that one team is going to make an early exit. I wish they played each other in the regular season, but no, TBT can't go away. It gets us to the Little League tournament and then college football. All right, it's a well thought out text. I appreciate that. So this is sort of that it fills the time. It's good because, of course, the two schools aren't going to play in basketball anytime soon. You're just not going to see it. It's not going to happen because WVU probably doesn't feel as if it needs to come to Huntington. Marshall, under the current administration, probably feels that, okay, don't need to make this one-sided and always constantly going to Morgantown. And then there was the matter of the Charleston Civic Center playing host to this. It was the Capital Classic. And then the last year, Dan D'Antoni made some remarks. Bob Huggins took offense to those remarks. Next thing you know, this thing is done. Not just the men's version, but the women's version as well. So that's taken away. And then, of course, football, that's a completely different story altogether. And we're not going to rehash that. But those teams don't play each other. So this is the closest that a lot of people get to that kind of excitement. And, of course, you hear the words of Ott Elmore in his comments earlier. He actually said it. If it wasn't for the fact that it was in Charleston, we might not have heard that this year. If you missed it earlier, here's what he said after the game when he was asked about coming back next year.
We'll see. Each year it's getting harder and harder to do. It's getting more expensive, entry fee, getting guys here. Probably weren't going to do it this year until they put in Charleston. So that might have been the end of this iteration. I heard that. Maybe, the young guys who graduated in the last couple of years take it over, but that was probably our last one.
So that's probably Ott and John Elmore, last one. And of course, John's pursuing his dream. He's playing in the NBA, the Summer League, the G League. He's still playing basketball as long as he can. And of course, this is fun, right? The TBT. This is fun. This isn't what you're trying to make a living at. So if it comes down to NBA Summer League or the TBT, John made the right decision. Same thing for Tavion. So heard that team, a couple players down. It's all right. No big loss here because Best Virginia won. Heard that lost. We saw the game. We were entertained by it. It was fun while it lasted. If there's a Heard That team next year, let's hope for a better result. It was fun following Heard That a couple years ago, going pretty far. It was fun to follow. Where are we at now? Is it going to be fun to follow here in the next few years? Depends on what the team looks like. And will there be guys, high-level guys, that are going to say, you know what, we want to carry this on. We want to continue this. And do you think that a new version of Heard That could advance far? Could a new version of Heard That bring the same kind of notoriety and success that the current edition or the now previous edition of Heard That is able to bring over the last few years? I mean, after all, Ott Elmore made that team by being Ott Elmore. John Elmore, of course, has some notoriety and a name for playing in the G League and now the Summer League, and Heard That became sort of the de facto America's team because it had attitude, it has swagger, and it was fun to watch. Now here we are a few years later. What's more fun? The Summer League, the TBT, both, neither. And it's so hard to put together a team every year because this isn't a situation where you have lots of funding. You've got to find revenue and resources to put this thing together so you can compete. And, of course, you got to go and fundraise. You got to go and get donations. Texter said, Paul, that's what turned me off, donations. I appreciate the quick text. Yeah, I mean, you got guys that are asking, hey, we want to do this, and we want to represent you, but we need money to do this. And so how many of you are inclined to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to open up my checkbook. I'm going to open up my wallet, and I want to contribute to Heard That. That way, we've got a Heard That team in the TBT, and we can hopefully cheer them on all the way to the championship. Or would you prefer to spend that money toward Marshall basketball? If you can't do both, you're going to give to Marshall. If you're trying to give, and you can only give to one, you're probably giving to Marshall. If you can do both, you will. But is that a big issue for people? I've seen a couple of comments on that, and I've got a couple of texts on it. Is that really a big issue? The fact that you have to go out and ask for dollars. Hey, we're trying to fundraise here. We want to bring some guys in. We want to put this team together, but we're going to have to pay people. So this is how we go about it. How much money can you donate to help us put this thing together? And that apparently has been a turnoff for a couple of you. And again, I don't know how many people it's really turned off, but I've gotten a couple of notes on that donations, the fact that you donate and they last 1 or 2 games. Well, that's the risk right there. That is absolutely the risk when it comes to the TBT. If you put money into your favorite team, will it be there 1, 2, or more games? And of course, being in Charleston helped make the decision to go at it again. But if the games are no longer being held in Charleston, or if there's an off chance that it moves a couple of years down the line and it's going to be somewhere else and maybe come back later in Charleston, will that mean we're not going to see that in the tournament anymore? Or maybe there will be a year or 2 off for that kind of regroup? Or will we care at this point? Are we going to be at that point where, hey, that was fun? We're not going to see that again anytime soon, but that was fun. Because if I'm a current Marshall player and I'm looking at my future, I'm shooting towards the NBA, right? Okay. Also, we're almost at the point now where you don't have the veteran Marshall player anymore. Obina Anachili-Killen's probably the last of a rare and dying breed when it comes to staying with the program. How many of these guys in the future that you will see play for the Thundering Herd will be 1 year, 2 at most, one-offs? They came, they needed a landing spot, needed a better situation, played for Marshall, got a year in. Thanks, appreciate it. It was fun. I'm now moved on to my next adventure, my next school, or you graduate. That's where we're at right now when it comes to college basketball. There are guys that will stay with a team for a few years, and then there are guys that are, look, I can find a better team. I got this far. Marshall, appreciate it. Got to showcase myself. Now I'm getting attention from bigger schools and repeat the process. And so what would a that team look like here in the future? How many guys are going to be 4 or 5 year guys? I hate that because of the fact that when a lot of us were younger, you got to know players for several years and they finished with the Herd. And how many players are going to ever reach those heights again? I mean, we're going to see an all-time scoring leader anytime soon in our future? Probably not. All-time shot block leader? Probably not. Going to have to put in some years with the Herd, and that's where we're at right now. And that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for being a part of it. We do it every day, and it's always better with you. So don't forget, you can find me on X at Paul Swann. Also, we'll open the text line up back tomorrow. And you can also find the podcast anytime, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Back tomorrow here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Broadcasting from the Dave & Buster's studios. Eat, drink, play, and watch at Dave & Buster's in the Huntington Mall. ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. WRBC, W231BS Huntington.